All right, welcome to the plant-based thrower, Masters over 40, vegan shot put discus javelin thrower. And what I wanted to talk about today was just kind of a overview of periodization training and what I use and why I do it. Everybody's kind of seen this graph before, volume and intensity. And I have it broken down into different phases: general preparation, special preparation, or sport-specific preparation, pre-competition, competition, and peaking phase. Now, even if you're not a competitor, this is good for overall health and well-being and just changing your phases of training up. This is what you would call the linear method. So basically, you always start at a high volume, low intensity. And as time goes on, over the course of anywhere from 6 weeks to a year to 4 years, depending upon how you set this up, your intensity will go up and your volume will go down, leading towards the peak. So I'm still in this general preparation phase right now, as I'm still not even a year out from my broken arm and just returning to competition, which I haven't trained or done anything in 8 years. So that's why I'm starting with a linear periodization model. A non-linear periodization is a little different, where you kind of do some training, kind of go up and down, and over the course of time kind of build up like that. That's good, especially if you're a well-trained athlete or you've been doing it. I know linear is kind of a old method, but I believe it's a very good one, especially for young athletes and athletes who are in my situation. We haven't competed or done anything in a long time. I think it's always a good idea to go through a linear periodization scheme first. And just because it's good learning and it's a very slow progression, long duration. So any one of these phases, like I said, general prep, that can last 3 months, which is what I've done. And so I've had my general preparation phase, and I broke that into endurance and hypertrophy training, which is where I'm at now. So hypertrophy is bodybuilding, for those of you who don't know. So I started out, let's just say weight training, for instance. General prep, you're talking 2 to 3 sets by 12 to 20 reps. I showed you a video on that. And that's a lot of body weight style exercises. So push-ups, pull-ups, dips. You throw some dumbbells in there for exercises you can't really do, like upright rows, squats and lunges and things like that can all be done with dumbbells. So various items like that, and that's usually, circuit style. That's good for the heart rate. You're not really worried about intensity so much, just getting the volume going, and you try to increase volume. So that would be endurance-based training in the general preparation phase. So now what I've done is I've moved on into the bodybuilding style. I'm going to do that for about 4 to 6 weeks. And what I do is you can do it either 4 times a week or 6 times a week. I prefer the 4 times a week just because I like that setup a little bit better. And what you're doing is all of your exercises. Now you moved on from, like, say, instead of push-ups, you're doing like dumbbell bench press. So now you've increased your intensity a little bit. So you're kind of, I went through this section and now I'm kind of here. So now instead of doing 2 to 3 sets of every exercise for 12 to 20 reps, now I'm doing 3 to 5 by 8 to 12 repetitions. And I do that in a pyramid form. So what does that mean? So let's just say you're doing a bench press and you do 12 reps, 10 reps, 8 reps, back to 10, back to 12. That's 5 sets. And you start with a light weight, 12 reps, add a little bit of weight, go to 10, add more weight, go to 8. Then you drop back down, do 10, back down, do 12. You can do that for every exercise. Again, this is going to be focused on dumbbells. And the reason for that is you kind of start gaining a little bit of strength there, but then you back off, you drop set a little bit, and you really push for the pump, for the volume. Again, you're looking for hypertrophy, you're looking for muscle size. So in the first phase, we gain some endurance, the ability to perform more work capacity went up. Now we're adding a little bit of intensity to it. So our work capacity is still going to go up. It's still a relatively high volume, but it's more intense. And again, I'll do this for about 4 to 6 weeks. And I'll break this into 4 full body sessions. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And I'll split my whole body up, but I'll do like a push exercise, a pull exercise, and then a leg or a hip hinge exercise. And then I'll throw sometimes an ab day or a little bit of ab work at the end of 1 or 2 of those sessions during a week. So for instance, I could do dumbbell bench. Sorry for my absolutely terrible handwriting. Pull-ups, right? And then let's say a squat. Now you could do this with dumbbells. I don't like squatting with dumbbells. I'll use the barbell for that, but I really save a lot of my barbell work for the next phase, the more sport specific training. And that's when I'll move into a strength phase, which a strength phase is going to be, I'll move into what's called a strength hypertrophy transition phase, which is just 3 to 5 sets, 6 to 8 reps. So drop the volume a little bit more, increase the intensity a little bit more. But that's where you're going to really hammer your front squats, overhead squats, your barbell pressing and barbell pulling exercises. And you slowly start to fade away from the body weight training, except for there's a couple exercises you cannot replace. I mean, you could replace pull-ups with a lat pull down or something to that effect. I don't happen to have a lat pull down machine, so you could do that though. But all 3 of those exercises I do 3 to 5 by 8 to 12, pyramid style. And just kind of each week you try to beat it. You progressively overload. So you add a little bit of weight to that middle set, so that 8 rep set. If you did 100 pounds on bench, let's say, whatever your number is. If you completed that and then you finish your 10 and your 12, and you completed that with not too extreme intensity, like it wasn't impossible to get through, but you could get through it, then the next week you'll add 5 pounds or 10 pounds or whatever it be that you're comfortable with. And just over the course of time, you'll just add a little bit of weight to that. So after this hypertrophy phase and I go into the sport specific training, again, that's going to look like 3 to 5 by 6 to 8. And then after I go into that, that's when we start getting into really more of just a traditional strength program. And that is where you're going to see your 3 to 5 sets by 3 to 5 reps, right? 3 to 6 reps type of thing. And that's terrible. And that's where, so 3 to 5 sets by 3 to 5 reps. That's what you're looking at for your strength phase. At this point, you're going to be way over here in this pre-competition, going into competition phase. And this is all about adding weight to the bar and decreasing your volume significantly. This is very intense. And that is only going to be done 3 to 4 times a week. Again, I'm a big fan of full body workouts. So you get a little bit of each movement. So you get a little bit of pulling, you get a little bit of pushing, and you get some leg work in every single time you train. And you just change the exercise a little bit. So let's say Monday was your, at this point you'll be in flat barbell bench. You'll do, bent over row with the barbell and your squat. On Wednesday, because that would be like a Monday workout, Wednesday would be maybe an incline or an overhead shoulder press. So you're still doing a pressing exercise, but up overhead. Then you'll do maybe a deadlift for your hip hinge or your lower body, your legs. And then for pull, you could do shrugs, but you're doing them very heavy for low reps. And the idea is to axially load the body, so loading it head to toe and just feeling heavier weights. And then after that, and I'll go into more of these in detail as I actually do the programs. I'm just giving you a general overview. And then lastly, you're going to go into your peak phase, which is where I do heavy Olympic weightlifting. And that's going to be 1 to 3 reps, 3 to 5 sets, sometimes a little more. And I will generally start some of the Olympic lifts in the strength phase. Like I might throw a clean or a snatch or a jerk in here and there, or one a day, depending upon how I'm feeling. But every one of these phases, I like to do for a minimum of 3 weeks and generally no more than 6 weeks, because you adapt to it and then your body gets tired, it becomes monotonous. So by doing this, you break it up, which is why even if you're not an athlete in competition, this is a good rule to follow, because it just gives your body a good change of exercises and intensities and all that. If you just did the same workout all the time, you'd get to a plateau, you'd get to a point where nothing works. You'd probably see a decrease in performance, a decrease in whatever your goal is, if it's losing weight, gaining muscle, whatever. It's only going to work for so long. It's called general adaptation syndrome. You don't want to get to that point. You want to do this for a long enough period to adapt to the stimulus. But once you adapt to it, then you have to change and you have to create a new stimulus for your body to adapt. So by doing this, you're creating that adaptation. So going back to where I'm at now, the bodybuilding phase, like I said, you could do this 4 times a week, full body, like I said, or you could do 6 times a week. And a 6 times a week is where you're basically going to take that overall total weekly volume and you're going to break it into 6 days. So instead of doing 4 or 5 exercises 4 days a week, I might do 2 or 3 and split it up. And that I would do different. So 6 days a week would be a push, pull, leg. So push, pull, leg, and then repeat it again, push, pull, leg. Or when I say legs, I also mean like hip hinge. So not just squatting, but deadlifting, RDLs, kettlebell swings. I'll still use them in here. And then obviously your push days, the 3 main exercises: overhead press, bench press, and then dips I like to use. Pulling days, I pretty much focus on pull-ups or chin-ups, Australian rows or bent over barbell rows, and then upright rows or shrugs. And on other pulling days, I'll add in curls right now, because I'll do some auxiliary lifts for this phase. Because again, we're not really focused on how much weight we're lifting. We're not focused on performance right now because we're so far away from competition that I don't want to burn out. So this is all about kind of gaining a little bit of muscle size and adding just a little bit of strength to it. And just kind of, you're preparing yourself for the next phase, which is where you're going to advance those lifts and into the more advanced style. So again, like you might be doing a dumbbell bench press here, and then in the next phase is going to be barbell bench press, but you're going to start adding weight. You just, every step is always prepping you for the next step. And in between each phase, so say I did this for 6 weeks, right? When I say 6 weeks, I'll do basically 5 weeks of training, and then the 6th week would be a deload. So a deload is basically taking the same amount of weight and doing half the volume. So you don't really change anything up. So again, let's go back to that example where we're doing dumbbell bench, right? Then we're gonna do pull-ups. And then we're gonna do squats. All right, let's say that's my Monday routine for 6 weeks in a row, 3 to 5 sets, 8 to 12 reps, and get to that 6th week. And now I'm going to do, maybe if I worked up to 5 sets of 8 to 12, I'm going to do 3 by 8 to 12, or I'm sorry, I'm going to do 3 by half the amount. So I'm going to do 3 by 4 to 6 reps, but I'm going to keep the weight the same. So if I did, 100-pound dumbbells in the 5th week, I'm going to keep the 100 pounds, but I'm going to drop the volume in half. And all that does is it kind of keeps the feel of the weight in the body and cuts the volume down. So what you're doing is you're actively resting. I know it seems kind of counterintuitive, but it's very important to do that. And sometimes, depending upon your phase, like if you did 6-week phase of endurance, a 6-week phase of hypertrophy, on that next week, you might take a total rest week. If you're really tired and you're really, stressed out, or you're working long hours, or whatever the case may be, you can't go to the gym, maybe it's a good idea to just take a whole week off and maybe just focus on stretching, loosening up, or just relaxing entirely. Or if you have a vacation planned, there's your week to go on vacation when you're not doing nothing. And that's really important in recovery, because the more you go this way in intensity, the longer your rest and recovery's got to be, because it's way more taxing on the body. I'm not really sure. I mean, there's so much. This is a whole large area of study and personal preference and all that. So, no matter what the studies and everything tell you, I used to teach a course years ago in college on this, and obviously it was way more in depth than what we're getting on here. But studies will tell you so much, but the reality is that everybody's different. Everybody's going to respond differently. And if you're a newbie, some of these general preparation phase or endurance phases may last you 3 months, right? Like you could go 12 weeks. Sorry, I'm trying to do this half-assed. So you might do an endurance phase for 3 months long and then take a rest. As you get older, so I've done this. I've done the 3 months. Then I've worked it down to 6 weeks. And now eventually I might just do 3 or 4 weeks. And what you're going to slowly develop is you're going to slowly switch from that linear periodization model into that undulating or non-linear periodization, where, so you might do endurance training for a week, hypertrophy for another week, strength for a week, power for a week, and then that's your 4-week block of training. And then you're going to reset and do it all over again. And so that becomes your general prep, your specific prep, and you slowly develop it into even more, where you could do endurance training on Monday, hypertrophy Tuesday, strength on Thursday, powerlifting on, or Olympic lifting on Friday, and you could break it into that method too. But that's usually for far more advanced athletes. And I don't recommend rushing that, because in my mind, if you don't go through this, you're never going to make it to the other one. It's kind of like paying your dues in my mind. Like you got to go through this in order to understand it, and it's really good for you. I know there's a lot of stuff now where non-linear or linear periodization is kind of old school. It's not as effective, but I promise you, it is very effective if you're a new and up-and-coming lifter. Thanks again, like and subscribe.